Can you all believe that this is episode 11 of Log Horizon Season 2? It feels like it was just yesterday I was watching episode 1 and we were getting back into that database. It's really crazy how fast time flies when we watch anime or read manga. I mean, it is insane. So, besides that, this episode of Log Horizon, a battle-orientated episode. Now, if anyone did not want talking, pretty much they probably got their wish in this episode. This was a battle-orientated episode, and for the most part, I fucking loved it. Oh, you all know why I love this episode. Come on. I mean, if anyone's a fan of MMORPGs, once again, you're just gonna love this episode. You're just gonna suck this episode up, and you're gonna be like, oh my god, this is just amazing. When I saw the monk kills, like the balancing of the monks, how like the monks like Demi was trying to absorb all the elemental damage, I'm like, dude, the MMO mechanics coming in, the RPG class mechanics, like, dude, I love rolling a monk. The monks are one of my favorites to roll, besides like a warlock or something, and seeing, you know, Demi actually being like a monk, and he's absorbing all this elemental damage and shit, I'm like, dude, that's just too badass. That's just way too badass. Like, my god. Like, the druid hills, like the tree with druid hills, to just all sorts of other things, like the different classes, man. I am so glad the writer of this series actually knows what RPGs are and what certain classes should do. Like, for instance, I did not expect to see the druid class pull up a tree that heals everybody. I did not expect that in this episode. Along with Demi having to absorb all the elemental damage, I'm like... And then actually stating that the monks kind of have a higher health bar, I'm like, dude. Reminds me of when I used to play as a panda and WoW. But anyways, besides that, Demi gets a lot of screen time in this episode, like, a lot. The majority of this episode really focuses around Demi's character development with Shiro. That's really the main importance you could get out of this episode, besides the ending segments and the different plans. Demi has a lot of screen time, and this was needed. This was definitely needed, because, I mean, either we were going to have it to where he was going to betray Shiro and try to kill him in the middle of the raid, which I thought he was going to do at the end of this episode, or he was going to come to actually respect Shiro. And that's pretty much what happens in this episode, and that's one thing I do want to talk about. I love the dialogue between Shiro and Demi in the hallway, when Demi started running with Shiro on his back and all that from those freaking, like, purple little knight things. When you saw him run and he set Shiro down, like froze him on the floor, actually doesn't really sit him down, he just slings him. Pretty much Shiro gets up and they look at each other, he's like, say my name. I got some Walter Watt shit like that. Say my name! Say my name! That's exactly what I got. When I saw that, I'm like, dude, this is some Walter Watt shit. It seriously is. But anyways, yeah, getting off the jokes. Pretty much when he was staring at Shiro, and you saw how he was all serious face, like, say my name, and Shiro eventually realized that he's never really said his name properly before. And when he says his name, it's pretty much like mutual respect came between them. And then Demi actually started respecting Shiro. Shiro respected him. And they also admit they do not like each other, but they still respect each other. So getting to see that dialogue, that was very, very important to the episode. And I like that a lot. Now, the other things about this episode, besides the ending conclusion, let's get into the other stuff first. So, the fight. How the overall 3 raid bosses got handled. Now, the overall plan... pretty interesting. I did not expect it to go down like that. I expected the boss to be timed. You know how I said in my last review, I expected the bosses to be on a timer or something. They would eventually come in, which technically they kind of still are on a timer because they have to walk and break through the door. But I'm guessing it's technically not that easy to take out the first boss, the purple knight dude. I'm guessing it's not that easy to take him out in like a specific time frame, so I'm guessing they have to run around past that boss, and they have to split up and handle 3 bosses at once at different intervals. So... interesting. So from this episode, I will tell you this. I like the plan a lot. The plan makes a lot of sense how they ran past, they went to the serpent type boss, raid boss, they were fighting him, then the frost iron troll dude came in, broke through the fucking door or whatever, like he came through the door, and, you know, the other party had to split up from the party that was already fighting the serpent raid boss to fight him. And from the overall plan, I like the structure of the plan that Shiro used. You had the aggro range circles around the bosses, and supposedly from how the plan was set up, the plan was set up to have this room that was small enough but big enough to accommodate 2 raid bosses, because in the first time they actually went in to fight the raid bosses when 3 came in at once, they had no room to get out of the aggro range of any of these bosses because it was such a small room that all 3 bosses could actually hit everybody. And that wasn't a good thing at all. And so, for this room to be a little bit bigger and all that, it's a perfect size to be able to fight 2 raid bosses at once, because you'll have one side have the aggro range way over here, and you'll have the aggro range way over here, and pretty much both parties will not get fucked with by the raid boss, unless you fuck up and aggro the other boss over. So, overall, I like the plan that Shiro used, but what really shocked me was the raid boss, the original raid bosses in, out of the 3's raid bosses that could use a certain specific move. Supposedly this move that the Purple Knight raid boss used was where he was damaging himself to make minions. Now that's incredibly fucking scary. Like, whoa! Damaging himself to make more minions, and he can keep doing this on repeat. I mean, this doesn't technically have a server limit. I mean, this is technically like real life to them, so there's no like limit to how many people he could probably summon as an army. He could probably have 10,000 people in that room. Think about that for a second. Like, holy shit. So, that's an OP boss. That's a straight up OP boss. It is. Like, damn. So, anyways, besides that, let's get into the ending segments of this episode. Okay, so the ending of the episode pretty much has it to where Shiro makes it to the door thanks to Demi's help. He goes through the door and where the goal is of the dungeon. When he enters, we see this fountain of gold. Like, oh my god, the fountain of gold is just ridiculous. I'm like, Shiro, what do you need this gold for? Like, we really need to find out Shiro's real plan. Most likely it'll be next week. He'll probably have to talk and have some form of conversation with Kinjo to get him on his side, because if Shiro fails with the discussion, most likely whatever's behind Kinjo at the end of this episode is going to beat the shit out of Shiro, because that looks like a final raid boss of the dungeon. I want to say right now, that bird-looking creature around Kinjo at the end of this episode, yeah, that's the final raid boss. But I'm guessing it might be an optional final raid boss, depending on how the negotiations go with Kinjo. Overall, though, the episode, very good episode. I love it a lot. It had a lot of development, a lot of, different substance in it. So, yeah, tell me your thoughts in the comments below. I love y'all so much. You have a wonderful day or night, wherever you live. Please be safe. Chibi out.